So even head vampire, this is what Roseanne Barr calls him, Nick Fuentes, says, "You're crazy if you think Israel killed Charlie Kirk." Watch this.
Time to wake up, guys. Some of this, I'll be the first one to say, the conspiratard schizo thing, it's getting a little out of control. And that's coming from me. I mean, it's like we are truly through the looking glass. When Charlie Kirk is assassinated, people blame Israel. I, who fought Charlie Kirk because he was pro-Israel, am being said to, I'm being said to be covering up that he was killed for this miraculous conversion. If Ben Shapiro was taken out next, and God forbid, would Israel be behind that too? I mean, that would be equally ridiculous. If it was Ben Shapiro on Wednesday, people would be saying, Israel did it. Shapiro was about to become a National Socialist. Like, what? It's crazy. Anyway, so that just needs to be said.
Fall is planting season. Did you know that many plants and trees actually do better when planted this time of year? But you have to know where to start. And that's why I love fast growing trees. It doesn't matter if you live in the sunny south or if the air is getting chilly where you are. Their plant experts can help you find the perfect fit for your space. I can tell you from experience, these guys are the real deal. I actually ordered a Meyer lemon tree from Fast Growing Trees about 2.5 years ago. And no joke, it fruited literally right away. I didn't have to wait years and I didn't have to guess whether it would survive. It came right to my door, already healthy and thriving, ready to plant. Here's the thing, if you've ever gone to a nursery, you know the drill. Messy car, you waste an entire Saturday driving around, and half the time they don't even have what you're looking for. With fast growing trees, you skip all of that. You get to browse thousands of options online: fruit trees, privacy trees, flowering trees, shrubs, even houseplants, and you get them shipped directly to you in just a few days. And the best part, their plants are grown in the US and they stand behind them with their Alive and Thrive guarantee. That's why my lemon tree is still going strong, because it was nurtured from the beginning, not just pulled off of a shelf. And if you've ever thought about landscaping, you know it's expensive. But with fast growing trees, you could do it yourself, save a ton of money, and still end up with a gorgeous yard that looks professionally done. Honestly, I'm already thinking about what I'm adding next. This fall, they have the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners of this show can get 15% off their first purchase when using the code Iverson at checkout. Remember to spell it S-E-N, guys, just to remember that so that you actually get it. That's 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using code Iverson at checkout. Now is the perfect time to plant. It's always the best this time of year. Use Iverson to save today. Offers valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. Check out the link below in the show notes and go get yourself a fast growing tree. Okay, well, I mean, look, if Ben Shapiro, I mean, we don't want anybody else to get killed or assassinated, but if Ben Shapiro were killed or assassinated, I don't think people would be claiming that Israel did it unless Ben Shapiro started doing what Charlie Kirk did, which was in the last 3-4 weeks of his life, start questioning Israel and wanting to have debates about Israel with other prominent conservatives who are thinking differently about Israel. But that is, of course, not happening with Ben, but it did happen with Charlie Kirk. So the question is, why is Nick Fuentes potentially saying this? Now, of course, he could just genuinely believe it. But Owen Benjamin, he has his own theory, and he says, I predicted this publicly the day after it happened. He needs to do this. So he's talking about Nick Fuentes, and he says he needs to do this to stay the Jew guy and not allow Charlie Kirk to have any of "it's the Jews" credit. He had a 6-year Groyper war against Charlie Kirk, completely based on Charlie being a shill for Israel. Him agreeing to debate him and Fuentes running and then dying a martyr is a nightmare for Fuentes. He wants Charlie's fans, so he has to be soft on Israel. None of this will work. His bots are totally backfiring. My bits on Fuentes are so obviously true and funny that the giant bot machine he has going now just makes people think his fans are idiots with no sense of humor. And anyone that isn't legit gay and regarded, who actually listens to him talk for more than 5 minutes, gets a feeling of extreme disgust that never goes away. Nick doesn't actually believe anything or have any actual political agenda outside of gaining power for himself at all costs. It's so insanely obvious. So Owen Benjamin obviously does not like Nick Fuentes. Now I don't necessarily agree with everything that Owen Benjamin is saying right here, but I do agree that it wouldn't be good for Nick to suddenly have Charlie Kirk being taken out by Israel, because Owen Benjamin points out something I think that makes a lot of sense, and that is Nick and Charlie had this Groiper war for 6 years. Nick has accused Charlie Kirk of being too pro-Israel, defending Israel, doing anything for Israel, bending over backwards for Israel. And so suddenly, if Charlie Kirk's taken out by Israel, suddenly um, it kind of it does, not that it delegitimizes his Groiper war that he's had with Charlie Kirk, but it certainly takes the air out of the Groiper war a little bit, because suddenly Charlie's on. I mean, suddenly they have to all like Charlie. Suddenly they all have to think Charlie's a martyr for their for because Israel, the evil country that the Groipers have been talking about, you know, suddenly, do you see what I'm saying? Like suddenly it's just not good for the Groypers to have Charlie Cook on their side when they have been actually going after him for many, many years. So instead, Nick is saying, it's not Israel. This is crazy for you to even be thinking this. How dare you? And he's got a bit of a point there, which is Charlie Kirk was one of the biggest shills for Israel, one of the biggest supporters for Israel, one of the biggest excuse makers for Israel up until the last few weeks of his life, when he started to say, wait a minute, why am I not allowed to have discussions that challenge Israel? Why am I not allowed to have why am I not allowed to platform people with different opinions? And people were really insanely upset about that. Um, so, with head vampire, I just think that's so funny. Nick Fuentes potentially saying, well, look, you guys are crazy. And now you've got a lot of people on the right saying, even Nick Fuentes is saying, you guys are crazy. Tucker, Candace, Max Blumenthal, all of you guys that are saying all these things, you guys are all nuts. Any of you pointing towards Israel. And so, look, even Nick Fuentes doesn't agree with you. Um, but things are still looking highly suspicious. Here's Netanyahu once again coming out to defend Israel, deny any Israeli wrongdoing when it comes to Charlie Kirk's death. This is just a bit over the top. How many times does a foreign leader, do you think he'd be busy? He's waging war on 7 fronts, essentially. He's facing his own criminal charges. He has protests going on in his own country. I mean, he's the leader of a foreign country that's at war. Wars he started, but nonetheless, and yet he's taking the time out of his busy schedule, day after day after day, to basically say, look, guys, nothing to see here. Israel didn't do it. Watch this.
Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister, said that the bigger the lie, the faster it will spread. Well, somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous. Charlie Kirk was a giant, a once-in-a-century talent who defended freedom, defended America, defended our common Judeo-Christian civilization. Charlie loved Israel. He loved the Jewish people. He told me so in a letter that he sent me just a few months ago. One of my greatest joys as a Christian, he said, is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. He encouraged me to make the case directly to the American people about how vital Israel is to U.S. national security. He told me, the Holy Land is so important to my life, it pains me to see support for Israel slip away. Now, if Charlie disagreed with a policy of mine or a decision here and there, not only did I not mind, I welcomed it. This is the essence of Charlie. This is the essence of a free country. It's exactly what Charlie stood for. And I knew that his suggestions always came from the heart, from his love for Israel and from his love for the Jewish people. A few weeks before his death, I spoke to Charlie. I invited him to visit Israel again. And sadly, that won't happen. Now some are peddling these disgusting rumors, perhaps out of obsession, perhaps with Qatari funding. What I do know is this: Charlie Kirk was a great man, and a great man deserves honor, not lies. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. May your memory be a blessing.
Okay. Again, I mean, if you have to deny it over and over and over again, there's maybe some question there as to why you keep denying it over and over and over again. You'd think that you would just move on and forget about it and say it's a big conspiracy theory. But that's not what Netanyahu's been doing. Okay. here's some other things that are a little bit suspicious that have happened. Ben Shapiro. So you've got Netanyahu saying Charlie Kirk is the biggest friend to Israel. You've got all these pro-Israel people saying Charlie Kirk was a big friend to Israel. You have all these other voices like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Max Blumenthal, a lot of other people coming out, Marjorie Taylor Greene, even Roger Stone, lots of people coming out saying, yeah, but actually Charlie Kirk was starting to get frustrated with Israel and the Israeli supporters. So, um, you know, there's another story here. There's another potential motive here. And to make things even more suspicious, Ben Shapiro, now his organization is going to be dropping $1 million to Turning Point USA. So that will for sure keep everybody in line. $1 million. None of them will be criticizing Israel. They will all be saying it absolutely wasn't, you know, Israel had nothing to do with Charlie Kirk's death. They'll make sure that they cover any sort of evidence that points in a different direction other than Tyler Robinson up. Here he is saying he's going to give $1 million to Turning Point USA.
I know we at Daily Wire, we trust you at TPUSA to do it. I mean, that's really the answer. We're willing to provide, and we are providing any level of material support, any level of support on the ground, boots on the ground, helping you to do what Charlie would have wanted to be done here. And I think that the reason that everybody trusted Charlie, the reason we're all mourning Charlie, is because nobody did it better. You spelled out two of Charlie's goals. You said, he wanted to bring people back to Christ and bring people back to church and back to biblical values. And he wanted to keep the MAGA coalition together.
And expand it.
And the question is how you do that. And the answer is you focus on the first, and the second is a byproduct. Okay, the answer is that, as Matt says, you have to unite around something. And yeah, we can unite in the short term around the fact that there are a bunch of people who hate our guts and want to murder us, which of course is true. But long-term unity, big movement change, which is what Charlie was really trying to drive, and why he went to talk to people who disagree, is about building around those core values. And so the long-term vision, yeah, we'll have our petty squabbles, and yeah, some of those squabbles will be more than petty, but the long-term vision has to be built around those original biblical conservative values that Charlie stood for, things like the Bible, things like free markets, things like family, all those things are things Charlie stood for. You got to build the coalition around values, because we can't build it around the man, but we can build it around the values that he left behind and that he spent his entire life fighting for. And, we couldn't be, frankly, more honored to join you guys as much as we can in the fight.
Thank you for that, and thank you for donating the Daily Wire $1 million. Breaking news on this show. Thank you guys for honoring Charlie so well today. God bless you.
Well, with $1 million, you definitely won't see any criticism. It's just kind of interesting that Ben Shapiro, who's Jewish, is saying we want to donate $1 million to um, basically have Charlie Kirk's organization continue to preach Christianity. Just kind of interesting, but nonetheless, a lot of people are pointing to that as kind of like a hush money deal. All right, let's go over some of the stuff that just is not, it's still just not making sense. There's a reason why people are blaming Israel. There's a reason why people are looking at a foreign actor or even a state. I don't know if anybody really believes like the CIA, anybody in the US did this to Charlie Kirk, but certainly pointing at the foreign nation. This is why things just still are not adding up. Let's start off with the text messages that were recently supposedly written by Tyler Robinson and his lover, Lance Twiggs. And I'm sure you've already heard of these texts. I'm sure you've read through them, but none of them are sounding like 22-year-olds texting each other. They're not sounding like, it's odd that it just so happens this text message thread uh, basically answers every plot hole that all the authorities are asking, all the questions that are being asked. Now, according to authorities, this text thread happened the day before Tyler Robinson was actually apprehended. And what doesn't make sense about this in particular, so not only do the texts sound strange, and it doesn't sound like anything 22-year-olds would be saying to each other. He's talking about his vehicle and saying things like vehicle, my love, old man. Just using terminology that young people don't really actually use. So it's for one just not adding up there. Now, some people say, yeah, but Tyler Robinson, we think, was on the spectrum. He was kind of autistic, so maybe he was a little bit socially awkward, and so maybe he did talk like this. And maybe that's true. But to be using, full-on sentences, capitalizing everything, just not texting in a way that young people text. Now, some people say, well, maybe these texts were planned by Tyler and his lover to exonerate the lover, because at this point, Tyler knew they were on to him and they knew he was going to end up being arrested. And so he wanted to exonerate his lover by putting out this big, honey, you didn't do it sort of thread, just all too convenient, saying, this is how I did it. I was the one who was solely doing it. And this would prove that Lance Twiggs had nothing to do with the killing of Charlie Kirk. Perhaps. Um, but otherwise, the other thing that's really bizarre about this is Kash Patel came out and said that for one, there was reports of a note, and we had all heard of these reports of a note that had been left behind. But then Kash Patel went and did a media tour saying, well, there was a note, but the note was destroyed. And we just have forensic evidence that the note existed. And he didn't say anything else about, but we do have text messages where he's basically confessing to his lover that he did it. Kash Patel didn't say a word about that. He didn't even mention it. They were just going on about a note that suddenly didn't exist. So if these text messages were apparently the day before he was actually captured, Lance Twiggs was reportedly working with authorities and completely compliant the entire time. So they would have known about these text messages during the time that Kash Patel was going around doing his media tour, right? But he didn't even say anything about these text messages. It wasn't even brought up. Instead, he was talking about a destroyed note. You think that he would use this opportunity to bring up these text messages, but he didn't. But here's something really odd also. So now you say, okay, but they've got these text messages. If the authorities fabricated them, they wouldn't want to use them in court, really, right? Because maybe that would come out in court that, hey, actually Lance Twiggs did not have these text messages on this phone. This is completely fabricated. Let me show you this tweet. This was put out by Chris Ann Hall. I believe she's a constitutional attorney, and she says, wait a minute. So she says, is Utah trying to lose this case? She says, I just watched Utah prosecutor Jeff Gray publicly read aloud private text messages, interviews, and alleged confessions during a press conference before trial about Utah versus Tyler Robinson. He even referred to them at the press conference as facts. Are you kidding me? Oversharing inculpatory evidence like this is a huge constitutional no-no. Even the slap on of a vague disclaimer like we want a fair trial, the damage is already done. Also, the statements by Gray of we will not be speaking to the press during the trial after reading actual testimony and evidence that has not been vetted by the court is a lame and empty attempt to cover this massive violation of due process, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, etc., the presumption of innocence and the integrity of the entire case. This is not just an error in strategy. This is potentially a legally destructive action. We will see motions to suppress tainted jury pools, request sequestering or gag orders, move for change of venue, seek exclusion of evidence due to taint or even mistrial. Ultimately, the defense may assert reversible error on appeal if the court fails to act. It is not a subject up to interpretation. There is a long-standing case law on this. The Supreme Court in Shepard versus Maxwell reversed Shepard's conviction, ruling 7-2 that he was denied a fair trial due to a failure to shield the proceedings from prejudicial media coverage. Majority opinion, the court held that while freedom of the press is essential, it must not override a defendant's right to a fair trial. So why I'm showing you this, why this is important, is because if these text messages, which many people believe are fabricated, if they are fabricated and the authorities know it, then they would do something like this, knowing then that the defense would exclude it from trial. So these text messages would never make it to trial in order for them to be scrutinized, in order for the defense to say they're bullshit, they were made up. Lance Twiggs never received these, or they were clearly planted on the phone after the fact and, by some really tech savvy people, planting them on the phone after the fact to make it look like Tyler Robinson had texted Lance Twiggs earlier in before he was caught. I mean, before they could even be scrutinized, dug into, examined, they will be thrown out of court. So we won't even get so instead, what has happened is these text messages have come out there to the public so that all of us believe, well, he did it. I mean, this is just persuading public opinion potentially, especially if this evidence never makes it to court. This was just meant to make you and I believe that, yep, Tyler Robinson did it and he confessed and we have the text messages to it, even though they never end up showing up in court. So that is, I think, for everybody saying these are fake, and then others saying, well, how could they possibly be fake because they're going to be going to court? Well, they might not be. And that leads to more suspicion that the text messages might be fake. Tyler Robinson did appear in court. Let me just play it for you. This way you could hear his voice for yourself, because I think in honesty, when I do hear his voice, I kind of think, okay, I mean, he's only saying his name. I shouldn't say anything because then I'm just being, there, because the only thing he's saying is his name. But we also have heard him read, his letter out loud that he was being when he got a scholarship to Utah State University. And I think that's why a lot of people are saying he's probably on the spectrum. And then maybe that is why he wrote text messages that sound, totally different than a way a normal 22-year-old would sound, because he's, just a bit abnormal or something. That's kind of what people are pointing to. But anyway, let's look at his appearance in court.
The jail, are we ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Calling case 251-403-576, State of Utah versus Tyler James Robinson. Could you state your name?
Tyler James Robinson.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Robinson. I'm Judge Graff. Mr. Scortis.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. You're probably already aware of my presence or why I'm here, but if not, I am not entering an appearance. I'm not counsel on this case. I'm working with the county to get counsel assigned, but we need you to allow for the appointment of counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Scortis. I want to go through the qualifications
Absolutely.
for indigency, but that is my intent, Mr. Scortis.
Very well.
And I thank you for being here.
Okay. So, first of all, where's his legal counsel? So he's appearing, and then you heard the other lawyer saying, we're working on getting counsel. I guess they're working on figuring out who's going to prosecute the case. It also doesn't look like Tyler Robinson has a defense attorney at this point. I do want to point out, too, one thing I was thinking about. People are saying, is the family really going to get $1 million for turning in their son? And, the family said that they're going to be maybe donating the money to Charlie Kirk's foundation or something along those lines. Look, a father could turn in his son because he feels like it's the right thing to do, might even believe his son is guilty, might not believe his son is guilty, but just says, look, that they're thinking it's you. And instead of you ending up in a manhunt where they shoot you dead, I'd rather we turn you in, and maybe convince his son to be turned in. And then, why not use the $1 million? If you are going to get $1 million, why not use that for your kid's defense? And some people are saying, well, I wouldn't pay for my kid's defense if they did this. We live in a country where it's supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. So I would hope that you would still support your son, even if you think they are guilty, until they are legitimately found guilty, because that's kind of the America we're supposed to be living in. So why not take the $1 million? I'm just saying, why not take the $1 million to use it on defense? They're going to certainly need it. His defense will take $1 million, not just in this trial, but if and when he's convicted, then to appeal the death penalty that they're certainly going to be throwing at him, and to continue to appeal that over and over and over again. It is going to take upwards of $1 million. So something just to think about if they do take the money. Maybe they're planning on using it for that reason. Okay. More reasons why Tyler Robinson is probably not the shooter, and why people are pointing at other potential actors, for example, Israel, in this. I want to play for you this video. This is from a YouTube channel called Overton Analysis. Shoot, I don't have the link to it, so I can't tell you this guy's exact name right now. But we did do a bit of an edit on what he lays out why there was a lot of questions of Charlie Kirk. Was he wearing a vest? And he shows why he's not wearing a vest, and instead it was actually his earpiece in the court, and that's why you saw kind of some strange outlines on his shirt. And the police have already said he's not wearing a vest. And he also shows that there's no that the bullet could not have come from the direction that Tyler Robinson was on that roof where Tyler Robinson was. Okay, this guy's name is Zeb Boykin. Let's watch his breakdown.
Let me show you where these camera angles are first. This is cam 1 over there to the left. Obviously, Charlie Kirk is in the centerpiece. Let me get a mouse over here. Charlie Kirk is in the center over here. Cam 1 is over here. Cam 2 is here. Cam 3 is here. Cam 4 is here. And we will refer back to those as we go. They're not exact, but they should be very, very close. And then so this is camera angle 1. Camera angle 1 is, like I said, over here. Boom, camera angle 1 on Charlie's left side. You can see the bullet before the frame before, right? So if we're looking right here, I don't know if you can see that on there, zoom in. You could say Zeb. That's just a fly flying by, or that's just a piece of dust picking up sunlight. And I can say, okay, that's fine. Let's take that. So here we have, this is a frame before it hits Charlie, right? One frame. This is one frame. Bing, bang, boom. This is a single frame. We're going to go into camera 2. Camera 2 is a little bit brutal, but we're going to look at it from this angle right here. This is Alex Jones pulled this. Camera 2 and camera 3 have very, very similar angles. As we go, you can see, you can barely faintly see this as we go back and forth, but we'll get a cleaner shot of that here in half a second. That is the earpiece flying off. So I have my mic right here, and I have an earpiece, and Charlie Kirk has an earpiece, and I'll demonstrate that here in a second in the camera 3. And so what he's done, and it's actually more comfortable. I'll give you this. I figured this one out. It's more comfortable to have it wrap around and pinch into a mic than it is to have it drape straight down because it doesn't pull on you, right? It's loose up here. It's loose, right? I have my mic, and it wraps around the back of my head, and it comes here, and it comes across. And I'll demonstrate exactly I'll show you exactly where it's at here. And it comes across. My shirt's a little bit tighter than his is, but the point remains the same. And that's why his mic is almost vertical in this frame, right? It's pinched up. It's pinched up. It's not flat like most people wear it with a magnet. It's pinched because it's grabbing the cord. And so the cord is, I just had to unplug mine, but let's say he's got it plugged in right here. And it is, he's sitting down, so it's kind of crunched up a little bit. And when it hits, it pops up, right? So you can see the cord is somewhat similar to where his is. Boom. There's your cord. It pulls from the shockwave. And it grabs the shirt and pulls it up. I'll explain that here in a second. It's an open wound. That's an exit wound, not an entry. Entry doesn't do that. I would say it's a smaller caliber than a 30-06. A 30-06 would make a much bigger hole. Camera 3 is a little bit better quality. We're going to go, like I said, boom, camera 3. This is where camera 3 is being shot from. This is camera 3 going in frame by frame. And so what you'll see is kind of the same thing, but a little bit different. So there's your quote-unquote body armor that's not there. And then we're going to roll into, all right, first thing I want you to notice, and I didn't think anything of it the first time around. I want you to watch his earlobe as it goes right there. I don't know if you can see that. It's not a lot, but it's enough. And so then we go on. There's a piece that starts to fly back. This is another piece. I was assuming this was blood, but it's not blood. Well, this is that earpiece, the same earpiece we were talking about a second ago. This is the same earpiece, right? I was watching this. Boom, boom. See, I thought it was going backwards. We're supposed to be flying away from him. It's flying towards him, right? That's because it's the earpiece. It's attached to him. This is a temporary cavity diagram. So what we're looking at is probably an entry near the base of the ear or the jaw. And then this would, it's at an angle, right? So it's going to, what's called yaw inside. So especially if it hits bone, it's going to be very, very unpredictable. And so what I'm talking about is the cavity would cause the cord to kind of, the cord to kind of pull the shirt, right? And so this is exactly what we're looking at. It would cause the cord to pull the shirt, just like the cord, the wire sends signals. It's going to catch any kind of reverberations, vibrations, and it's going to throw itself. And that's exactly what you're seeing here. And there's blood on the shirt. Again, this is evidence too that this is an exit wound, not just because it's this, not just because it's about to gush, but also there's blood on the shirt. And, you know, if you have an injury wound, it wouldn't have blood on the shirt going in. This doesn't make sense. And we're going to go to camera angle 4. This camera angle 4 is probably the one that's getting most of the recognition here, or some variation of that, right? This guy in the white hat. His name is Frank Kirk. Are we going to look at the earpiece again, right? Earpiece flies off, boom, 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 pulls it with it, and then there goes everything else. What we're going to look at here is a lot of people claiming this is a reflection. It's not a reflection. One, because, of the bullet. It's not a reflection of the bullet. Are we going to move on back to camera angle 1 and then finish this up? This is camera angle 1, just pulled from a higher portion of the video, right? So if we're looking at this, the bullet is coming in from somewhere in this direction or somewhere in this direction. So if we're looking here, this is camera angle 1 on up. Let's assume this is a bullet. I think it's fair to say that is the bullet, given this, given this, given this, given everything else. We can go back to Pixelmator Pro, take a look at this thing. And so we have this shot of Charlie Kirk, and then we have the bullet behind him. The bullet behind him is like right here in an angle, somewhere in this vicinity. So look top left up here. You see this white dot. Once you see this white dot, it's a single frame. It's a single frame white dot. So we can go back, forward. It's a single frame. That's all it is, single frame. But that single frame is very coincidental, or that's a muzzle flash. We go, we're gonna count frames. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, 8 frames. 9, 10 is when he gets hit. So we're gonna go 8 frames. It almost looks like a vapor trail. 8 frames would put you at like 200 yards. The problem is 200 yards would put you way far away. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is 80 meters right here. He got hit at the base of the skull here probably, right? And so we're talking, this is immediate incapacitation. He didn't die from blood loss. He died instantly, which would mean it either hit spinal or the base of the brain, or either some portion of the brain that would take everything out. So what I'm saying is the FBI's lying. It's quite literally not possible for the shooter to have been on the roof that they claim he is, along with other inconsistencies across the board. One more time. This is most likely entry somewhere in this vicinity. It hits bone and it projects itself outward through the neck. Once it hits bone, it's unpredictable, right? And so also if it's within like 150 yards, 150 yards, you have what's called a yaw, right? So if a bullet's flying, it's going to do like a circular motion. Well, I can't even do it. It's going to rotate itself, trying to stabilize itself in flight. It's going to try and stabilize itself, and if it's not stabilized, it's going to hit not a smooth target. And so if it's any direction when it hits, it's going to tumble in itself. And so I think that's what we see here. It tumbles out, hits the shirt, and then he starts leaking. An entry wound does not do that. I guess one more thing before I can close this thing up. There's a cleaner shot that I couldn't find before doing this video of the bullet being able to be seen against his black shirt. I couldn't find that shot or a possible bullet.
Okay. We did speed that up to 2 times, so I know it was kind of hard to understand him because it was super fast, but his whole video is over 20 minutes long. You can watch the whole thing. It's called, it's actually, the YouTube channel is called Outside the Overton, and that is Zeb Boykin. really smart analysis on this, but you can see where he says, look, it wasn't a shield that he was wearing, it was instead the cord. And he also points out the direction of the bullet. One thing he also did say in the video was he said this would have been an instant kill. If it went in the back of the skull and came out, which is what we all saw, and we thought maybe that was the entry point, but he says, no, that's actually an exit wound because the blood is coming out. And that if he was hit in the back of the skull from an angle we didn't actually get to see, then it would have been he would have been instantly killed. And that is backed up by his friend Frank Turek, who was actually in the SUV with Charlie Kirk. This is what he had to say.
Now, here's what Erica wants me to relate on Sunday. This is going to be the hard part, but maybe also the comforting part. Charlie Kirk was literally like a son to me. I have 3 sons. He was like my 4th son. My 3 sons are a little bit older than Charlie. He was like my 4th son. So when he was hit, if your son got hit, what would you do? What would you do? I got in the car. Because if there was any way I could save him, I had to do something. And I couldn't just take him. You guys got it. So they got him into the side of the car. It was an SUV. It was the SUV we took over. And I'm on one side, and there's actually some video of this. Somebody's taking video of this. I'm on one side of the car, the right side, and they're getting Charlie in. So I run over to the other side, but the guy who was dragging him in is now blocking that entrance. So at that point, I run around to the back. I pop the back gate open, and I jump in the back. The car lurches forward. Apparently somebody jumped in the car. So the car lurches forward. So I almost fall out of the car, the SUV. Then I grab the thing and close it. And there's 5 of us in the car now. Justin's driving. Dan is up front with the GPS. Rick has got him. Rick's on my left, and Brian is there, and I'm coming over the back seat, and Charlie's laid out in front, just right in front of me. And Charlie's so tall, we can't close the door. We drove 4 miles, I don't know, it's 4 something miles, all the way to the hospital with the door open. To this day, I don't know how Brian stayed in the car, because we're just go, 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 go. We're trying to stop the bleeding. You saw it. And I'm yelling, come on, Charlie, come on, come on. Meanwhile, my phone is still on. My son and daughter-in-law are hearing this whole thing. And his security team, again, Justin, Dan, Brian, and Rick, they love Charlie. But they were much cooler than I mean, they're just carrying out, they're calmly, but they're swiftly doing exactly what they were trained to do. Rick starts praying out loud. I'm praying out loud. We're yelling, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. My son's hearing all this. And we're doing the best we can to navigate traffic. This is not a highway. We're on surface streets. And suddenly there's an ambulance coming toward us. And there was conversation in the car. Should we stop? We're like, no, just keep going. Just keep going. The doctor later said that was the right thing to do. Ambulance goes by us. We're still heading to the hospital, trying to get there. At one point, somebody says, let's get there in one piece, because we're cutting through intersections. We're just beeping the horn. This is not a emergency vehicle. There's no lights. There's none of this. And I go, we got to start CPR. So I try and start that. Now, Charlie wasn't there. His eyes were fixed. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking past me right into eternity. He was with Jesus already. He was killed instantly and felt absolutely no pain. That's what I was told later. But of course, we had to try. And by the way, there was just nothing any of us could do about it. We were giving him CPR, but nothing was happening. It wasn't like if we had better first aid or we had better medical facilities or we were faster to the hospital, we could have saved him. We couldn't. So if that's any comfort at all, Charlie didn't suffer. He was gone. He was with Jesus, absent from the body, present with the Lord. That's where he was. Now, it is true, when we got to the hospital and they started working on him right away, they did get a pulse back. And so Rick and I were just, everyone's praying. We're just praying for a miracle. We had a small sliver of hope. And the doctor later said that we got a pulse because Charlie was a very healthy man, but the shot was catastrophic. So 20 or 30 minutes later, the surgeon came out and said he was dead.
Okay, so Frank Turek is saying that Charlie Kirk was killed right away, and um, that is what the analysis was previously. If he was shot in the back of the skull and that was an exit wound, it would have been an immediate kill. It wouldn't have been. There's a possibility if what we saw was an entry wound, that it would have taken a bit more time for him, and maybe there was a chance to save him. But what was described, um, and what Frank is describing. And by the way, Frank is the guy that he was standing, he was the one making the strange, he was holding a cell phone. He was standing behind Charlie and he was making some strange, what people thought looked like signals. He was kind of tipping his hat, making some weird, strange movements. That is Frank Turek. That turned out to be him. So people are saying, no, that's a really good friend of Charlie's. I mean, I don't know if that. Certainly the hand movements were very strange. Of course, it could have been just coincidentally he's making some strange hand movements, but I don't want to say, well, no, he must not have been doing that because he's a good friend. I mean, spouses kill each other all the time, and people kill their own kids. So I mean, it's, I don't think that just because he's a good friend, it just automatically exonerates him from suspicion if there's especially some reason to be suspicious. I'm not saying there necessarily is, but he was the person behind Charlie making the strange movements. Um, Now let me play this for you. Again, just kind of things not adding up. So now we know, even from his friend Frank Turek, that Charlie was dead right away. That goes along with the Overton analysis on this, that with Zeb's analysis, that he was probably shot in the back of the skull and what we saw was an exit wound. Why that matters is the bullet came from a completely different direction than where Tyler Robinson was allegedly, where he was on the roof. That means it was a different shooter. That means it couldn't have been Tyler Robinson. I mean, it's just pretty simple. So one of the other questions is, how did Tyler get the rifle onto the roof? We saw him running from the roof right away, right after Charlie was shot. We see the figure running on the roof right away in the dark clothing, jumping off the roof. Looks like maybe holding a rifle, maybe not holding a rifle. Some say yes, some say no. But the bigger question is, how did he get the gun onto the roof? Because he was wearing shorts, he was seen wearing shorts. And one of the theories that law enforcement has had is that he disassembled the rifle, where here is an expert saying, yeah, watch me disassemble this rifle and you tell me if this is something that could have been done. Watch this.
On this episode of You Might Be a Dumb Motherfucker, this is my rifle. It takes two different tools to take it apart. It takes a Torx key and an Allen key. Now, if I take a shot and immediately disassemble this, I have to remove the bolt, remove the magazine, grab my Allen key, hit the two bolts on the bottom, put those away in the Allen key, grab my Torx key, remove the scope, put everything in the backpack, make sure I have everything, and make my way downtown. Okay, which is going to take a lot longer for him than it is for me, especially because his fine-tuned motor function, something as simple as grabbing an Allen key to a little bolt, is going to be extremely impaired due to a dump of adrenaline throughout his bloodstream. An extreme elevated heart rate is going to make these fine-tuned skills extremely difficult. I mean, just for him to think and analyze of what needs to be done to disassemble this rifle and get away would be difficult. And we're not even going to touch the topic of him assembling the rifle on top of the roof, which if you reassemble a rifle and you take a cold dead shot, it's not going to be 100% accurate. Okay, or the fact that he disassembled this after taking a shot, which the rifle's going to be hot and they found no gloves. There's just so many inconsistencies. It just makes zero sense. I mean, I'm still working on this and I have taken this rifle apart 1,000 times. And now he has to put the pieces of the rifle into a backpack. And this is a gigantic backpack. Shout out Wolfpack, best backpacks on the fucking planet. Anyways, as you can see, this barrel, broken down, does not fit in this backpack. And this is a big boy, way bigger than the one that he was carrying. Okay, I put the rifle stock in here and guess what? It doesn't fit. It sticks out. Now let's just say, for sake of argument, that he put these in his pant leg and he was walking. These are still so long broken down that he would not be able to walk straight. He wouldn't be able to bend his legs. Doesn't make fucking sense.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, even if he got the rifle to the roof, disassembled, and this guy's pointing out how would he been able to reassemble it and have it actually take an accurate shot? But also, the pieces were too big, even disassembled, to fit into his backpack to get it onto the roof, or even to be walking with shorts on. So he's wearing shorts. He couldn't have stuffed the rifle in his pants at that point. He has a backpack. He couldn't have disassembled it to fit into the backpack. It doesn't even fit when it's disassembled. Still just not, things are just not adding up. Things are just not adding up at all. Here is Mel from Twitter. She says that she's got a scoop. Got a tip last night that I was able to verify with someone inside the admin that the NSA detected 12 Israeli registered cell phones at the site of the shooting last Wednesday. So all of this is still, pointing the finger at maybe Israel did it. And those who want to say, absolutely, you're crazy. How could you possibly think Israel did it? Well, it's not like they don't kill people. I mean, they've killed their own prime minister after he made a deal with the Palestinians. I mean, they'll threaten anybody, and they threatened a U.S. president, Truman, with letter bombs. I mean, there's a whole history there of a lot of nefarious action from Israel. So of course you can't just exonerate them just simply because you want to exonerate them. You have to follow all leads. This was my problem even during COVID. You can't claim it was one theory and not the other without actually going and investigating that theory. If you want to say it's bullshit, fine, but you have to investigate it. So just follow the leads, follow the money, see where things adding up. And if they're not adding up in the direction where you're claiming, and in this case, the shooter's Tyler Robinson on a roof coming from a different direction, somehow getting a rifle up there while wearing shorts and a backpack, and then suddenly there's text messages that just happen to fill every single plot hole that everybody was asking, text messages that might not even be admitted into court because they decided to release them to the public out loud. And not only that, but how often do we get this much information about somebody? Most of the time they cover up who the shooter is. They rip off their profiles from social media. We're not told anything about them. And this time they're giving us a whole slew of information. And you've got Netanyahu out there every day at this point, basically saying Israel didn't do it. Israel didn't do it. And now let me show you this. This is 250 lawmakers sitting in Israel. They were there over the last couple of days for this 50 states one. Do we have the picture of them? Well, there's a picture of all of the lawmakers sitting, 250 lawmakers outside in Israel. They all went for, this is a list of the names and the money that they had taken, but there's 250 legislators going to this conference called the 50 States of Israel, which happened just over the weekend, essentially. And that's odd, right? It's odd to have all of our lawmakers showing up to Israel. And of course, this adds to the suspicion. I mean, this just adds to America's bought off. And of course, if Israel did something, uh, the US would be covering it up, just like Israel's committing genocide. And what does the US do? The US covers it up. So it just points the finger there. So I don't think Nick Fuentes can legitimately say Israel didn't do it. I don't think anyone can say Israel didn't do it when there's just too much adding up that shows Tyler Robinson likely didn't do it. And, we've got all of these inconsistencies with the entire case that is increasingly suspicious that he didn't do it. Oh, here's the photo of the lawmakers. So this is all of our 250 US lawmakers sitting in Israel over the weekend at this conference, 50 States, One Israel conference. I mean, just absolutely unbelievable that this is what they're doing. I mean, these are our lawmakers, and you're telling me we're not supposed to be suspicious of this country that has completely bought us off and things aren't adding up, and everybody's supposed to gobble this up, otherwise they're going to be censored online. And that is what the next step is going to be. They're going to start censoring anybody and everybody who claims anything other than it was Tyler Robinson. It's going to be just like the left with COVID. If you dare say that it was coming from a lab or whatever, if you say anything other than it came from a bat in a wet market in Wuhan, China, you are a conspiracy theorist. You will be shadow banned or you will be fully censored. We don't want to hear any of it. You are just a lunatic, lying conspiracy theorist. That is what they did. That is what the left did. And now the right is absolutely on track to be doing that exact same thing. And we're actually going to talk about that next here on the Kim Iverson Show. Thank you for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson Show, which you can catch Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern at KimIversonShow.com. It is free for you to watch. Again, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, KimIversonShow.com. See you there.